There's only one Lexa, so yeah. I feel like she was the one for her. I don't know. Like, I've thought about that, and I don't know if she's going to be able to love anyone the way she loved Lexa. It has to suck it up for the most part, but I can't spoil too much. But there will be, a time where she gets to actually mourn properly. Yeah.
Any time to grieve for Lexa?
I mean, not really. No, she doesn't. She's grieving. There's no way around that. But in this next episode, she's going to be faced with Ontari coming back and basically saying, I'm going to be the next commander and I'm going to wipe out your people. So she's, she's had to kind of figure out a way to deal with Lexa, to cope and move on with this really urgent matter, which is obviously what Clark does every time somehow. I think like the one thing that I really am really happy about, and something that I think gives Clark a reason to carry on, is the fact that she has to believe that Lexa's in this AI, and she does. She truly believes it, that she's in there, and as long as she keeps this safe, she's got her,
That character.
It was really hard. I emailed Jason on the night that the episode was going to air, and I was saying I've just got so many mixed feelings, and it's a character that I just adore, and I feel so lucky to have been able to portray. She's so... it was a true collaboration from every point on that show.
I mean, me and Alycia talked about it, definitely, but I don't like to mess with scripts too much until I'm on set, and then just play around so none of it feels stale or, like I know it really, really well. So, we definitely talked about it, but we didn't really go through anything, and I was just like, all right, here we go, It's such a sensitive issue. I obviously was like super upset that we lost Alycia, because but she's become one of my closest friends. And I don't know, I can't speak for like whether or not it was the wrong or right decision. I'm just glad that this relationship was ever like out there to begin with. That just makes me so happy that I can be a part of something that wasn't necessarily going to be on any TV show, like 10 years ago. It's crazy. Like, it's so great. And I'm really proud of that.
And it showed what was going to happen to Lexa. Were you worried about what the fan reaction was going to be?
I mean, of course, yeah. It's a real fucking sensitive issue. Pardon my French. And of course I was worried, but all we could do was make it the best that we could with the script that we were given. And of course, I think it has to be said at some point, Alycia had to go to a different show. So, I know fans are really upset about her going, and I know there's a whole lot of other stuff that I'm not even going to go into. I don't know, the fact that she died in my arms, and that we both I feel like we both crossed like a threshold acting wise. That was a hard day, and we went for it, just tears, and we went to the scary feely place, and I'm really glad, I'm grateful for the experience.
And the reaction was a lot greater than I expected, and the passion is amazing to see, but I just hope people know that it never came from a negative place from the writers or from the set. It was always love and nurture for the people involved in that show.
The reaction has obviously been surprising to us. Really? In particular, I didn't ever imagine that it would be so intense. We designed it to be a ride. We designed it to be emotional, of course. The show's a tragedy. Horrible things happen in every episode. But this landed in a different way for our audience. especially LGBTQ fans of the show. And you know, one of the things that sort of began to drive it home for me was I watched fan reaction videos sort of religiously on Friday mornings, and on this particular Friday, I couldn't watch them. They were too intense. The audience, I mean, the one after the next, they were devastated by what they saw. And, you know, we as artists and writers and actors, you know, we don't want to hurt people. And I feel like this touched something real, it touched a nerve, it activated something in people who, you know, their whole lives have had to deal with things that me as a straight white guy, you know, obviously couldn't relate to. So I was very surprised by it, and I've apologized for that. We never really, I think, understood the power of that relationship and that character. And so knowing what I know now, I would have done some things differently. That's an acknowledgement that I need to make.
I'm gonna put on my crying boots. It's hard, but I mean, I've just managed to find a way of separating me from Clark. Otherwise, I'd go mad.
Sure, I'm going to interact in a way that's much more careful on Twitter. I feel like, you know, a lot of what the things that I said in my excitement, you know, I love this show and I love Clark and Lexa, and I loved everything that was happening, and I tweeted about that, and that set up an unrealistic, I think, expectation. I definitely contributed to that problem, so that she was going to end up having a happy ending. And so I'm going to be careful for sure in that way. My writers are too. And in terms of the bigger lesson of how much power a story potentially has, and you know, the impact in the life of the audience that a story might play, I think we're going to definitely spend time in the room sort of doing a post-mortem on this season and how things happened and why they happened. And you know, I don't think it'll mean that we tell a less intense story. I think that it'll make us more sensitive to our audience in a way that I think is important. You know, again, I used this metaphor before of the roller coaster. When you're building a roller coaster, you want the ride to be intense and scary and, you know, death-defying and all those loops and dips to work. But you don't want the cars to jump off the track. And I feel like in some ways that happened with the response to the Lexa death, and that was, you know, I think compounded by a lot of factors, but you know, I think we need to be more careful that we design the ride that is going to get to the end safely, if that makes sense.
I want to make sure you're aware of the charity that's been raised in your name.
No.
The Trevor Project, over $46,000 in the last 2 weeks since your exit from the 100, just in your name.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing that you have the greatest fans in the world.
What does the charity support? I have no idea about this.
It's for LGBT teens in need. I think,
oh my God, that's
I think people, maybe more than teens, in need, and it's all because of your character, Lexa.
Wow.
They wanted me to ask you if you were aware of really how much you meant to the LGBT community on that show.
I mean, not to that extent, no. Oh my gosh, what an incredible thing to find out. I think what's so important to note in that moment as well is that that's such a positive outcome for a traumatic event that people have experienced with the loss of that character. Traumatic maybe is too strong a word, but
It's traumatic to them, definitely.
but yeah, I know there's been a lot of negativity thrown around in some way, but that's what's so important, to find a social issue and to have momentum for it and to develop it in a really positive way, and that's so exciting. Oh my God, I'm so moved by that.
It's been amazing.
About the Trevor Project and the donations that have been given?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, honestly. I feel like, you know, it's a great organization. I think that if money could be raised to help people who are going through things in their lives because of who they love, I think that's tragic, and I think it's an amazing thing that has come out of this.
May we meet again.